Hello and welcome to the Built on Air podcast. Built on Air is a regular podcast where we talk with everyday people and learn about the amazing things they are doing with Airtable. Today's podcast is sponsored by OpenSide, the leading solutions provider for Airtable customers. Check out openside.com to learn more about their products and services that can take your Airtable usage to the next level. Use promo code BuiltOnAir to receive $20 towards any product purchase. In today's episode, we speak with Karl Hughes, startup enthusiast and software engineer. After Karl started speaking at conferences in 2017, he noticed how difficult it was to find a good resource on applying to and tracking the dates of the many speaking opportunities that come up each year. Thinking this might be a gap that he could fill with his experience in tech, he set off to build CFP Land. CFP stands for Call for Proposal. When an event is scheduled, a call for proposal goes out to invite speakers to apply. CFP Land catalogues data from hundreds of events worldwide for conference speakers to access in one place. In his own words, Karl has long been an advocate for building digital products with off-the-shelf tools. So Airtable was an obvious choice for the first iteration of CFP Land. In today's episode, he shows us how he manages the back end of CFP Land in Airtable and blends in his own programming skills to create one sleek, smooth-functioning site. Check out the show notes for links to CFP Land as well as Karl's blog.
All right, cool. So this is the landing page for CFP Land. The idea is with the whole project, like I want to help inspire more speakers or people who are out there in the audience get onto the stage. So I want to inspire more people to become speakers. And so the sort of big call to action is sign up for the weekly newsletter where I'm going to tell you all the opportunities that you have to speak in the next few months. And so this is all just a pretty straight static HTML landing page. Down here, it's got just basically a selection of the first several conferences that have open CFPs right now. Mm-hmm. These are the ones closing in the shortest amount of time, so closing soonest. So a lot of these are closing today. And so if you wanted to submit, these would be the ones you really need to get on right now. And it'll tell you, like, are there any perks offered to speakers? So for example, this one offers you travel and hotel. So I go collect that data every week. It'll tell you the topic. So this one's a mobile conference. So it's probably something around iOS or Android. And then it'll tell you the location, obviously, because you'll need to know that. Now, this is for non-logged in users. This is kind of what you see. Once you actually log in, you can get a little more functionality out of the site. So you create an account and now you can save conferences that you're interested in speaking at. You want to make sure, like, maybe I'm not going to apply right now, but I want to get reminded before this thing closes. So when you click saved, it's going to say this conference has been saved and you get reminders 21/7 and 3 days before it closes. So that's all stuff that I've built on top of Airtable to kind of add extra functionality to what Airtable gives you by default. You can also track the conferences that you've applied for and been rejected at and actually been accepted to speak at. And so the goal here would be I can kind of keep track of my acceptances over time or the rejections I've gotten over time so I can improve as a speaker next year. When this conference comes around, I can be like, oh, last year I got rejected, maybe this year I can get it. So this is some of the stuff, and all this here that you're looking at is in Gatsby. So Gatsby is a front end. It's a static site generator built on React. I'm going to talk super technical, and if you don't understand any of this, watchers, then just forgive me and you can ignore out for this moment. But Gatsby is a static site generator built in React, and it basically will go grab all my conference data and display it as plain HTML so that search engines can read it and all that good stuff. Now, when you're logged in, though, you're actually getting data from the API. So if you went into the Chrome Inspector, you could see those API calls being made. And they're actually going to my server, not Airtable's server, because my server in the middle is going to cache requests from Airtable. So that makes sure that if a lot of users do happen to be using the site at the same time, they're not going to run into any rate limit issues. Plus, it just lowers the number of requests that are actually made all the way over to Airtable. So it's a little better for performance. So this is all the non-Airtable side of things, and this is what users see. But what's happening behind the scenes, we'll look at Airtable stuff because this is what we're in here for.
Yeah.
These are all the conferences that I've collected. So there's 1,104 that I've collected in the last year. And if we kind of expand one of these records, you see the name of the conference, the event URL, the CFP URL. And what I've got happening, initially it started off, there's a Zap that I built. So Zapier is another cool tool for building automation without a lot of developer work. And there's a Zap I built that sort of collected conferences from a few key places, as well as got them off Twitter, also wherever I could find them, and put them all into this Airtable. And so it would add this data. And then I started to add some more Zaps that would add more data onto it. So for example, now I've got an icon for every conference, and that kind of makes it a little more visual. Also, the conferences often will have a location as a plain string, and I will go parse it using another API and turn it into actual structured data. So this tells us the region is Americas and North America. So that way, people can go see all the conferences in North America rather than just all the conferences in the world, which is useful for most speakers.
Right.
Yeah, so this is all the conference data, and then there's some category data that also lives in Airtable. And so these are the sort of key areas of conferences that right now I focus on in CFP Land. And so if you look at these, and so you can see all the conferences that go to each category. What's really helpful about using Airtable as a backend like this is that I don't have to go log into a database and try to write the SQL queries to fix things when things go wrong. Because inevitably what happens is some of the data I collect for a conference is out of date, or the due date gets changed, or the link gets changed, or something happens. And what I actually implemented recently was that if I'm a user, I can report an issue with a conference, and people will log in, like a lot of people do this, and they'll report problems with the conferences they see, and then I'll go fix them in Airtable manually, because it's only a few requests a week, so I can handle doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But Airtable makes it really easy to do that. So that's kind of the highlights here. Again, like a lot of the user data and the other supplementary data that's happening over on this side of the site is stored in my database, whereas the sort of core conference data lives in Airtable. Again, for the ease of editing, as well as just the it was already set up that way, so I didn't want to have to migrate everything over to a database.
Right, of course. That is super cool. I'm really interested in the Zap that you talked about with, like, so did you set it up like with a webhook to go crawl certain sites and pull that data when it was new?
Yeah, so I've written some of this stuff I've moved from Zaps to scripts because it's happening at such a scale now where Zapier would charge me quite a lot of money. So it started to make more sense to write the code myself. But we actually do a lot, even at my work with Zapier, where when we either want to hook up something from our web application to a third-party API, we'll go through Zapier, because Zapier will take care of retries, and it'll take care of like queuing and sort of making sure that we don't lose track of individual requests. But for the case of CFP Land, what was happening was I had a little bit of custom JavaScript code that I'd written that would grab some conference data from one place, and then a couple other similar pieces of code and like APIs that I would hit to grab conference data. So I had a Zap that would run, like, say, every day, because they have like a scheduling ability. So you could basically run what feels like to a developer a cron job in Zapier. And so I'd run these cron jobs in Zapier, and every day it would go get all the conferences from this list, and then it would actually like try to cross-reference them with the existing items in Airtable to make sure I don't get too many duplicates.
Right.
And then it'll save them in there. I still actually run into times where there's duplicates that get created, and so I do fix those manually every now and then. But again, with the volume of data we're talking about, it's like a few thousand, or it's like 1,000 conferences over a year. It's not so much that I can't handle it manually.
Right, absolutely. No, that's great. I've been really interested in trying to like learn more about setting up Zaps such as that.
Yeah, Zapier is amazing. Let's see if I've got anything good pulled up on Zapier.
Yeah, that'd be great. I use it for everything, but I've been trying to make it stretch to a point where I'm not sure if I can do it anymore.
Yeah. Well, you can do some pretty cool stuff, especially now lately they've added things to where you can write custom Python or JavaScript code. Right. So if you're a developer, or you have just like, you don't even have to be a real developer, you just have to kind of know enough code to be dangerous. Yeah. You can do some pretty cool stuff. One that's pretty involved that I have is every day I collect some KPIs, which are key performance indicators for CFP Land. And I hate doing this stuff manually. Like, I don't have time and I am lazy. So the way that I do it is it's this one. Yeah. So every day there's like this, the start of the zap is like, what's the trigger? So the trigger is every day. And then I do this, I go to, and this is actually going to Google Analytics and grabbing all the users that came in for that day. So one of my key performance indicators is how many users came to the site last day. The next one I do is I hit a webhook that gets me the number of followers I have on Twitter. So this is just an API call to Twitter. Next one is I get all the people subscribed to my MailChimp list. That's another API call to MailChimp. And then I just like dump all this into an Airtable base. And then every day I have it email me like what my summary is. So that way I don't even have to go to Airtable, but I could have.
That's awesome. And then you can track it all too have you been playing with blocks at all or chart?
Yeah,
block?
a little bit. So I remember early on when they were in beta, I tried them a few times. For me, well, it's just me. So setting up a dashboard's a little bit like redundant. I don't need that fancy stuff yet. But there are some times when like blocks, I've seen people use the map block for some really cool things.
Mm-hmm.
You can embed it on a site and see how all your records play out across a map. So there's some cool stuff there.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. No, that's super cool. Thanks so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
So, can I go back to your Airtable for 1 second?
Yeah.
One question. So the categories tab or table, is that what will show up on the website with the little hashtag?
Yep, exactly. So this hashtag JavaScript thing is like the JavaScript category.
Okay.
And it maps over to this one.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that's really nicely laid out and it looks great.
Yep.
Super cool. You built a tool to work for your needs and that you are able to share it with other people that love what you do as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's the point with any side project. I feel like it's fun to build stuff for yourself, but it's fun when something you build for yourself can also work for and improve other people's experience or life or whatever on the internet. I think that's a big motivator for me. One thing I realized, this is the first side project I've built that had like any significant number of users. And so I have about 1,500 email subscribers and maybe 100 or so like users who log into the Pro platform. And it's just the ability to get feedback from people and on a relatively like consistent basis and know that they're actually using it and look at the database and see the numbers change and go up. And it's just really fun. So it adds a lot to the experience as a developer from just building things for yourself just for the heck of it.
Awesome. That's so cool. And thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's next for you? Where can people go to see you speak?
Yeah, well, you know what? My wife and I just had a baby 7 weeks ago. So,
congratulations.
Yeah, I am taking a little bit of a hiatus from speaking, which is to be, have plenty of time to spend at home and get to see him grow up a bit before I'm off on the road more. But towards the middle of next year, I've got a talk at a conference called Developer First in Minneapolis, I believe. I think that's right. Minneapolis. And so I will be out back on the road a little bit. And otherwise, you can go to CFP Land and sign up. And if you're interested in speaking at all, or there's a Twitter account for CFP Land, you can also look up if you'd rather follow there. And I'm on Twitter as well at Karl L. Hughes.
Awesome. Great. We'll put all that in the show notes as well.
Cool.
All right. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today, Karl.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, Allie. Talk to you soon.
Definitely. Have a great day.
All right. Bye.
Bye.